Oh, it gets worse. I might need this before today is out. Nah. Maybe. Nah. Maybe. No to that too. Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to episode 5. Is it? Yeah, 5 of Halloween month. And today I will be talking about a movie that I just do not like. I think it's one of the absolute worst slasher movies ever made. I think it's one of the worst horror movies ever made. And I also think it's one of the worst sequels ever made. Oh boy. So today, I don't have the disc with me because I don't want to go and get my Blu-ray copy. And the actual copy is one of those reverse flip discs where you have one movie on one side of the disc and another movie on the other side. So obviously it doesn't have a photo of the movie. But today I will be discussing Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And I'm also going to disappoint some people. I'm not reviewing the producer's cut. I'm only talking about the theatrical version. I'm sorry to those out there who may have been looking forward to me hearing or listening to my thoughts on the producer's cut. I made it 40 minutes in and I shut it off. I just couldn't do it. So I will only be talking about the theater. I'll give a couple mentions to the producer's cut. And I also will be rating the producer's cut because I've seen enough to know already what it is. And I know enough about it to know the differences and know that already off the bat, I'm just going to say this. The producer's cut of The Curse of Michael Myers is the inferior version. So, yeah. Oh, God, I hate this movie. So, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers is a very contentious film in the Halloween series because many will say that it is undoubtedly the absolute worst of the Halloween series. There are those that say it's part 5, and I can understand why. And there are those who say it's Halloween Resurrection. I sort of understand why, but I actually think that movie is a little underrated. Then there are all those who say that the Rob Zombie movies are the worst, but I think that's just because people are Rob Zombie haters nowadays. And then there are those who will, of course, say that Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, is the worst of the franchise. And excluding why I don't like the original Halloween, I'd probably have to agree. Aside from the original Halloween, which I just don't like, I would have to legitimately say that The Curse of Michael Myers is probably the worst of the entire franchise. It is just, it's an awful, 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 awful movie. And it's because of that that I think this episode is going to be also a little short as well, like part 5, even though I have I don't know. I have some stuff to say about this one, but mostly it's just all negative. Though there are a couple things about this that I do like. So briefly to get through my personal history, technically this was the first Halloween movie that I ever saw. And or not no, not the first I ever saw. It's the first one that I ever owned. Though it is the first of the series that I did see from beginning to end. I remember seeing the last half hour of this movie on YouTube, and I actually do remember enjoying it. Then I bought the movie from Walmart. It was actually along with The Lost Boys, The Tribe, and which I need to get that movie back. And let's see, there was another movie that I got. I think it was Zombieland. So I guess I was in a big horror movie mood that day. So I bought Curse of Michael Myers, Zombieland, and just had on the tip of my tongue, Lost Boys, The Tribe from Walmart when me and my mom were out that day. And Curse of Michael Myers was the first one that I watched, and I remember enjoying it. But as the years went on, as I rewatched the movie did keep losing value for me. And I started to see all the flaws, but I really didn't realize how bad this movie was until I watched James Rolfe's review of it for Sequelathon for his Monster Madness. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this movie is awful. And as the years have gone by since then, I've seen a lot of people just pan this movie like there's no tomorrow. Though for some reason, there's also a big cult following for the producer's cut. And I just don't understand why. Both cuts are awful in my eyes. Though, like I said, the theatrical version, in my opinion, is the superior version because at least it makes up for some entertainment value. And that's really my biggest problem with the producer's cut is that it was boring as fuck. So with that being said, let's talk about the plot of Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. So on October 31st, 1989, Michael Myers and his niece Jamie Lloyd are abducted from the Haddonfield police station. And on October 30th, 1995, Jamie has been impregnated, and I'll get on that later, and her baby is born, being taken away by the Man of Black, which is the leader of a druid-like cult, now known as the Cult of Thorn. And later, a midwife helps Jamie escape with her baby. However, she is soon killed by Michael Myers by impaling the back of her skull onto a protruding sharp metal spike high on a wall. Jamie and her baby flee in a stolen pickup truck with Michael, of course, in pursuit somehow. Stopping briefly at a deserted bus station, Jamie makes a call to a Haddonfield radio station to warn Haddonfield that Michael is about to return back home, only to, of course, be ignored by the radio DJ Barry Sims, who is a complete and total asshole. Meanwhile, Dr. Samuel Loomis, who has recovered from his stroke and is also retired, is visited by his friend Dr. Terrence Wynn, who was a minor character in the original film, who is now the chief administrator of Smith's Grove Sanitarium, where Michael, of course, had been incarcerated as a boy. Sorry, I haven't drunk much all day. Wynn asks Loomis to return to Smith's Grove, but I'm pretty sure at this point Dr. Loomis will say no. But they overhear Jamie's plea for help on a local radio station. However, Michael finds Jamie. She crashes the truck into an old barn, and Michael ends up killing Jamie by impaling her on a corn thresher, turning it on and disemboweling her, but finds that her baby is not in the truck. Yeah, I forgot to mention last episode that Halloween 5 was when the tradition of killing off a previous character in the opening scene was started. With that, it was Rachel. With here, it's Jamie. And it's a damn fucking shame. Why does this adorable little girl have to suffer such a horrendous fate? Why? Whatever. So back in Haddonfield, Tommy Doyle from the original Halloween, who was babysat by Laurie Strode back in 1978, now lives in a boarding house as run by a Mrs. Blankenship. Weird name. They call her Miss B, so I'll just start calling her Mrs. B. The family living in the Myers house across from the street are relatives of the dysfunctional Strode family. Kara Strode, her 6-year-old son Danny, her teenage brother Tim, her caring mother Deborah, and the asshole abusive father John. And ever since seeing Michael as a child, Tommy has been obsessed with finding the truth behind his motives. He finds Jamie's baby at the bus station and takes him into his care and names him Stephen. Tommy then runs into Dr. Loomis and tells him about the Strode family living in the Myers house now. And the two now believe that Michael has, of course, returned to Haddonfield, which he has. Michael enters his home and ends up killing Deborah, killing her with an axe. And later, Tommy, Kara, and Danny go to the boarding house where Tommy reveals that Michael has been inflicted with Thorn, being an ancient druid curse. And long ago, one child from each tribe chosen to bear the curse of the Thorn, being this mark on Michael's wrist, must sacrifice its next of kin on the night of Samhain, or Samhain, however it's pronounced, being a Gaelic festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year. This, of course, being Halloween. Tommy believes that Stephen will be Michael's final sacrifice. And while Tommy goes out to look for Loomis, Mrs. B reveals to Kara that she was babysitting Michael the night he killed his sister, which is complete horseshit, because if you watch the opening scene to the original Halloween, you don't see Mrs. B. Whatever. Where was I? And that Danny is also hearing a voice telling him to kill, just like Michael did, indicating that Danny also possesses the power of Thorn. Some fucking how. They never resolve this plot point. However, meanwhile, Michael ends up killing John, Tim, Tim's girlfriend Beth, and also disemboweling Barry Sims. Good, he was a dick. And after Tommy returns home with Loomis, the man in black reveals himself actually to be Dr. Wynn. The cult of Thorn end up taking Kara, Danny, Stephen, and Michael to Smith's Grove. Loomis confronts Wynn, who reveals that he wants to control and study the power of Thorn. Wynn wants Loomis to join in on his conspiracy and reveals that Jamie's baby represents a new cycle of Michael's evil that he kept secret from most of the cult, who were focused on inflicting the curse onto a new child, this, of course, being Danny, to carry out a new trend of family sacrifices. However, Loomis calls Wynn out on his scheme, but he is knocked unconscious. Later, Michael ends up butchering Wynn's team of staff surgeons, and Wynn himself, too, during a medical procedure with Danny and Stephen sitting in the room next door. Tommy finds and frees Kara, Danny, and Stephen, and they flee from Michael and hide inside a laboratory. Regaining consciousness, Loomis helps Kara and the kids escape the hospital, and when Michael breaks into the laboratory, Tommy injects him with large quantities of tranquilizers containing some kind of corrosive liquid, and ends up beating the ever-living shit out of Michael with a lead pipe. And as Tommy, Kara, Danny, and Stephen leave, Loomis refuses to come with them and says that he has a little business to attend to. However, back inside the building, the movie ends with a shot of Michael's mask lying on the floor in the lab room, and Loomis is heard screaming in the background, leaving the fate of both men unknown and unknown forever, because this would be the last installment of this continuity. So how about this plot? Well, I guess it's really not terrible, but I think one of the biggest problems with this movie is that it tries to shove in a lot of really new and experimental stuff that people making this movie thought were going to be really successful and catapult this movie into new heights, I guess. But In my eyes, this movie's story is just a complete mess. There's a lot of plot lines going on. There's a lot of new stuff being introduced at the last minute that just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of unresolved plot threads in this movie as well, which does make sense, unfortunately, because Halloween 6 is also infamous because it had a very troubled production. It kind of seems similar to Fant Four Stick, the Fantastic Four movie from 2015, where the studio wanted one movie, but the director wanted one movie. And they just couldn't find a common ground to compensate on. Though I think Curse of Michael Myers is way worse because from what I've seen, it seems like the director wanted one movie, the studio wanted one movie, the writers wanted one movie, and neither of these three parties could really compromise on anything. So, and not to mention, by 1995, the slasher genre was way worn out. So it does make sense that this movie wasn't as successful as the filmmakers were hoping. Having a budget of $5 million, and I think it only did like 17 million, or maybe more, maybe a little more. I'm not sure. But this movie wasn't as successful as the studio was hoping, and that's why the series was rebooted in the next installment for the better, in my eyes. This Cult of Thorn trilogy, as it's been known as, with 4, 5, and 6, started out with good ideas, but really went downhill pretty quick. And this is also why the producer's cut exists. Well, the producer's cut actually was the original version intended to be released, but after being released to test audiences, they just absolutely hated it. They hated it so bad that the studio said, "Oh shit, we need to fix something." And this is why the theatrical cut exists. The theatrical cut was the version of the movie that people said was better. I can't really see them saying it was good, but they said it was better than the producer's cut, which I really can't blame them because, like I said, I do agree. I think the theatrical cut is the superior version of this film. Because, like I said, the theatrical version is at least more entertaining. Whereas the producer's cut, I'm going to get into a couple of the similarities or the differences right now. There's a lot of explaining or a lot of exposition in the producer's cut. There's a lot of Dr. Loomis in the film, but there's not much Michael Myers. The film also has poorly shot kills, very neutered kills, an even more convoluted story. And it reveals who the baby's father is, who Jamie's baby's father is. And I'll get to that when I get to the cons, though I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge by now. But so, and also not to mention, I mean, I've seen one source say it's 45 minutes, but I've heard another source say that it's 70 minutes. But apparently, the producer's cut and the theatrical cut they contain 45 to 70 minutes of completely altered footage. And for a long time, the producer's cut was only available through bootlegs on DVD. Somehow a fan managed to find a copy of the producer's cut and bootleg it and sell it. And it wasn't until 2013 or 2014 when the producer's cut was remastered and released on Blu-ray officially, which I, of course, do own. It's out in my patio. And I've also noticed, this is going back to fans' reaction to this movie. A lot of people also do defend the producer's cut. Hi, Nintendozilla. A lot of people defend the producer's cut, saying it's an underrated film. And like I said, I just don't know why. I found the producer's cut to be boring as all living shit. Red Ranger Key 501st. Hello, you must be a new guy. Where was I? Fuck. Oh yeah, so yeah, for a long time the producer's cut was made unavailable, and a lot of people do defend it for some reason. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But with all that being said, let's get on to the pros and cons. Do I have any pros with this movie? Surprisingly, yes. Pro number one is the kills in this movie are pretty good. I will give this movie credit for that. Redland Ranger. Oh, Redland Ranger does sound kind of familiar. Anyway, so yeah, the kills in this movie are pretty good. I will give this movie credit for that. I'd probably say that aside from the Rob Zombie movies and also maybe Resurrection, I'd probably say this is the most violent of the franchise before the Rob Zombie movies. The Rob Zombie movies, nothing will ever top those. Although I have read the plot to 2018, I will admit I spoiled the movie for myself. The movie seems like it's going to be violent, but I don't think it'll quite top the Rob Zombie movies. But Halloween 6 is probably the most violent of the franchise before the Rob Zombie films, because the kills in this movie are just fucking brutal. There's one guy who gets his head broken and twisted around completely, like just completely ripped around. Of course, Jamie's death. In the producer's cut, Jamie fell into a coma when she was stabbed in the stomach by Michael Myers. However, she was shot in the head with a silenced pistol while she was in her coma by Dr. Wynn with a silenced pistol. But in the theatrical version, Jamie's death is much more graphic, of course, being impaled onto a corn thresher and having the shit ripped out of her. Let's see. There's Barry Sims' death, where he's fucking gutted. Tim gets his throat slit when he gets out of the shower, and then, of course, Michael goes on his killing spree, killing off Dr. Wynn's team. And there's a shit ton of blood all over. And the last kill of the movie involves Michael smashing a dude's head against iron bars and then pressing his skull against the bars so much so until it crunches. These kills are fucking brutal, man. And also, not to mention, Michael Myers goes full on Jason Voorhees when he picks up, I shit you not, a surgical machete that's about that long from the hilt to the end of the blade. It's about that long. And he fucking guts Wynn's team. Oh my God, it is so glorious to watch. And this, of course, leads me into the third act. I just kind of spoiled it for you. This leads me into pro number 2, is that I will admit that, and also probably the most brutal kill in the film is when John Strode is killed. He's stabbed by Michael Myers and impaled onto a generator, and he is electrocuted to a crisp until his head fucking explodes. Shocking experience. But and that's probably the best kill in the film. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, but anyway, pro number 2, the third act of this movie is entertaining. The last 35 minutes or so is when the movie finally does get good, but that's just because we're watching Michael Myers go full on Jason Voorhees throughout Smith's Grove and slaughtering a whole bunch of bitches. And it is entertaining, and it is mildly suspenseful, and it's also kind of funny to see. Yes, I agree. That guy's death was so satisfying. But what was it? And also, it's kind of funny to see Michael Myers get the shit beaten out of him by Tommy Doyle with a lead pipe. Not a very good death, but still, I mean, it's better than what happens in the producer's cut, which I'll get to momentarily. And that's it for pros. Everything else is just cons. Con number one is that all the cast is just terrible. The entire human cast here is just terrible. The only one who's somewhat semi-tolerable is Kara Strode, mainly just because she's not annoying. But she's just kind of bland. But her friend, Tim, he's just a dumb, ditzy douchebag. His girlfriend is a dumb, ditzy douchebag. Danny, he's extremely annoying. Kara's mom, she's not a bad character, but like kind of like Kara herself, she just doesn't have much to do. She's a little bland. Dr. Wynn, he's just this forced, really, really forced villain. Dr. Loomis, in the producer's cut, there's a lot more of Dr. Loomis, and he gives a decent performance in the producer's cut, but in the theatrical version, there's not much of him. Though, admittedly, I think that's also why I think the theatrical cut is superior, because when Loomis is on screen, it's boring, and here Loomis isn't on screen very often, so the movie's not nearly as boring. Just overall, the human cast in this movie is just bland and boring. The worst of all being Tommy Doyle, played by Paul Rudd. His acting is extremely ham-fisted. He has the same blank expression on his face throughout most of the movie. He talks in the same monotone voice throughout most of the movie. It's only in the third act when he starts to emote more. But still, he sucks. He's just really boring, really weird, really awkward, and really creepy. So yeah, the human cast in this movie is just boring as shit. Con number two is the story. Well, no, okay, I guess. Nah, I'm gonna delete that. I was gonna say awful story, but admittedly, the story isn't horrendous. It's very convoluted. And actually, I guess you could say that. Con number two is that the plot is very convoluted. How do you spell that? Okay, I got it. Like I said, there's a lot of plot elements that are introduced. Yeah, there are a lot, like Nintendo Zilla 98 said, there's a lot of last minute changes, which are never good when it comes to film, because it just it feels rushed in the final product. No matter how hard you try, if you're making some last minute changes, it is gonna feel rushed, which is unfortunate, and it shows on screen. So yeah, the film itself, it has a very convoluted story. There's a lot of plot elements and plot threads that feel shoved in. And overall, the story is just a mess. And this leads me into con number three, is the supernatural elements of this film. They once again feel very, very, very forced. More forced than, well, okay, not nearly as forced as Halloween 5, because on Halloween 5, there was no anticipation to it. At least here, because you know that the supernatural elements were established in part 5, you expect them to be here. But still, they do feel very forced. It's even worse in the producer's cut, because they make Michael essentially into a pawn of a cult, which is a terrible, horrendous idea. And yeah, if you want to have supernatural elements in your slasher movie, in my opinion, you have to establish them from the very beginning. Once you integrate them later into the franchise, no matter how hard you try, I feel like they're going to feel just a tad forced. Friday the 13th does this as well with these supernatural elements in part 9, though at least they waited 9 movies to establish them, but still, it felt forced and pointless. I'll get to the alternate ending, but hang on. So yeah, the supernatural elements do feel very forced. Con number 4 is why do you kill off Jamie? What? I already talked about this, I know. Why do you kill off Jamie? Why do you kill this adorable little girl that you rooted for? And you grew attached to this character in parts 4 and 5. And then you just kill her off at the age of 15. That's your fucking fate for this beloved character. And rightfully so, killing off Jamie enraged many fans when this movie was released, myself included. When I finally got around to watching part 4 and 5, and then I moved on to 6, I was infuriated. Con number 5 is that this movie is paced very poorly. No, hang on. It overall is paced rather quickly, but there also are moments where the pace is just brought to a screeching halt because of the scary, suspenseful moments. Some may say that's not a bad thing, but me, it's a little jarring in my eyes. To go at this breakneck fast pace, but then just bring to a screeching halt for the scary scenes, then keep going, and then stop. It's jarring for me, at least. So yeah, don't like the pacing. Number 6. Wait, hang on. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Con number 6. Michael Myers' mask looks like shit in this movie. I'm actually probably going to have to say that this is the worst of the Michael Myers mask. I think I said that for part 5, but I'm going to have to rectify that. It looks even worse in this movie. To quote Dr. Wolfula, the mask's face looks like it has a really contagious, non-curable skin disease. It's really, it looks like it's made out of plastic. Straight up, it looks like it's made out of melted plastic, and it looks like shit. And also, the actor who played Michael Myers, he's pretty fucking pudgy, and it's really, really distracting. God, Michael Myers' mask look like shit in this movie. Con number 7. 7 and 8 go hand in hand with each other, unfortunately, because one con is really present only in the producer's cut. But con number 7 and 8 being the producer's cut itself, I just think the producer's cut is an absolute insult to cinema. But also con number 8, this is one of the biggest changes. Probably the second, no, yeah, probably the worst. The worst change, well, not really change, this was introduced, is that Jamie's baby, apparently its father, is Michael Myers. Yeah, Michael Myers impregnated his own teenage niece to create an inbred relative for him to kill. What kind of substance abuse was being done during the making of this movie? Why would you introduce incest elements into your film? Unless you're doing The Hills Have Eyes or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But even there, it's still fucked up. That is disgusting. To the writers who came up with that idea, what the fuck is wrong with you? And with all that being said, the second worst change is the original ending for this film, which involves Tommy Doyle dressing up like a Cult Thorn member and placing a bunch of stones on the floor in front of Michael Myers, creating an anti-Thorn symbol, rendering Michael completely motionless. So Michael Myers, the unstoppable killer, is stopped by a bunch of stones on the floor. Lame. Utterly and abysmally lame. So with that being said, just like this movie, it's utterly and abysmally lame. Aside from the original Halloween, like I said, which I do not like, I think The Curse of Michael Myers is the worst of the entire franchise. However, unlike the original movie, there are at least some parts of this film that I do enjoy. But outside of those small parts, this movie is just absolutely awful. And it is one of the worst horror movies that I've ever seen. It is one of the worst horror movie sequels that I have ever seen. The producer's cut, I'll be giving a 0 out of 10. In the theatrical cut of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, I'll be giving a 2 out of 10. Do I recommend this to hardcore Halloween fans? I guess technically I do, but only for completionist's sake. Watch this movie once, watch the producer's cut if you can sit through it, and then never watch them again. It's one of the worst horror movies that I've ever seen in my entire life. And thankfully, the next review, I am reviewing a far superior film. When I talk about 1998's Halloween H2O. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends, and as always, if you're writing a horror movie, don't include incest elements, please. That's fucked up. And thank you to Red Ranger Key 501st and Nintendo Zilla for sticking around. See ya. And I will see you guys in the next video.